This is the second video for our nonfiction text features project. Now that you've chosen your book, it's time to get started on your poster. So you have a couple options. You can do a piece of paper like this, you can do a poster board, or you can try to do this on a Google Doc or a Google slide, whatever works best for you. I think it's easier and you have the opportunity to be more creative if you do this assignment on paper. So I have a piece of cardstock and I've just put my title up here, nonfiction project. Here's my name. And then you're told to divide your paper or poster, whatever you're using, into 4 sections. 2 for the main idea part, 1 for bold words, and 1 for photos and captions. So what you're going to do after you divide your poster into the different sections is you're going to first choose 2 sections of your book from the table of contents. So I chose Why Bees Build Combs and Beekeeping Tools. You're going to read that section and then find the main idea of that section. After you find the main idea, you'll write the main idea and 2 to 3 supporting details. So if you're doing it on paper, you can handwrite it right onto the paper. You can type it on a Google Doc if your handwriting's not that great and print it out and glue it on. Or if you're doing yours electronically, you can just type it right onto the document itself. Again, I recommend that you do it on paper. So I read Why Bees Build Combs, and then I found the main idea of that section. And just for time for the video, I wrote mine on note cards so I could just lay them in here. So I found that the main idea was bees build combs to store honey and pollen. And then here were 2 supporting details. Combs are made of cells. Cells are small storage areas. Cells slant upward so that whatever the bees put in will not fall out. Then I read beekeeping tools, and I found the main idea of that section. Beekeepers need special tools to help them do their jobs safely. And I found 2 supporting details. Smokers spray smoke into the hives to calm the bees so they don't sting. Beekeepers wear broad-rimmed hats with nets to keep bees out of their hair, mouth, eyes, and ears. After that, I was ready for my bold words. So I found at least 5 bold words in the text. And then I had to tell what the definition of that word was or what I learned from that. So I found the word colony, and I went to the glossary in the book and wrote what a colony was. I already knew that a colony was a group of bees, but the glossary says that a large group of bees that live together. A drone was another bold word in the text. I knew about queen bees and I knew about worker bees, but there are also bees called drones and house bees. And I learned that a drone was a male bee, and I got this information from the glossary. Pollen was something I already knew about. I knew it was that yellow, fluffy, powdery stuff that sticks to insects when they fly from plant to plant. And the glossary tells me that it is a yellow, powdery substance found inside flowers. An apiary is a bee farm. That was a new word for me, so I found that in the glossary. And then a comb cell. I knew what a honeycomb was, and I knew that that was something that bees built inside of their hive. But the comb cell is all the little tiny hexagon parts that are inside of the honeycomb, and that the glossary tells us is a small storage area for honey or pollen. So I found my 5 words. I wrote the definition from the glossary, but then I also in my video talked a little bit about what I learned from reading about that word. And that's something you want to make sure that you do on Tuesday when you make your video as you present your poster. You want to talk about not only the definition of the word, but what you learned when you were reading about it in the book. The next section is photos and captions. It tells you to find a photo from the book and draw it the best you can. And I'm not an artist, but I did the best that I could. And then include the caption and what you learned from it. So I found a photo in the book that was a smoker, and they have this little book-looking thing that opens and closes and creates wind or smoke, and it comes out through this pipe and through the hole, and it blows smoke into the beehive to calm the bees down before the beekeepers go and work with them. So this is my smoker, and then the caption that went with it: a beekeeper sprays smoke into a hive to calm the bees. So again, if I was making this in real time as I was making the video, I would be handwriting all of this, or I could type it out and cut it and glue it to fit onto my paper. The last section is called sticky notes, and you have a couple different options for this. You can write on actual sticky notes and stick those in your book wherever you find a table of contents or a diagram or a label or a caption, and then when you get to that sticky note, you can just talk about it or read what the caption says and tell what you learned from it. Or if you like to have it on your poster, you can use the back as your sticky notes section, and that's what I did. So I just said the table of contents was found on page 3, and I know that a table of contents is a list of chapters or sections given at the front of a book. I found labels on page 9. A label is a name or phrase given to something that gives information. And when you're writing down these text features that you found in your text, I don't want you to just tell me the definition of that text feature. I already know what the text features are, so I want you to tell me the definition, but then I also want you to tell me what you learned from it. So for example, I found a diagram on page 9, and the definition of a diagram is a drawing that shows the appearance, structure, or workings of something. That's the definition. But then I would also go on to say, on page 9, there is a diagram of a bee, and it has labels that show all the parts of the bee's body. So I learned from the diagram what each part of the bee's body is called, and there were some body parts that I didn't know about, and then I could go on to talk about those. So don't just list the definitions and read the definitions. Tell me what you learned from that particular text feature. Now, if your story doesn't have a map, then you're not going to write map on here because your story doesn't have one. Okay? Same thing for a diagram or a label. Some books that you're finding may have them and some of them don't. So you want to find a book that has as many text features as possible, but if your book doesn't have every text feature on the list, that's okay. Just try to find a book that has as many as you can. Okay? More information in tomorrow's video about how to jazz up your poster and how to make your presentation for Flipgrid.